Hi, this is Catherine Morgan from Point A to Point B Transitions. I am also the editor-in-chief of Carol Roth's blog, Business Unplugged. Today, I am talking with Michelle Mazur. I was lucky enough to get introduced to Michelle by a mutual friend of ours and the fabulous David Fisher. And I'm excited to talk to you today because you are all about getting people to be concise, to be different, to portray their brand in a way that is true and bold. And that is completely in brand with Carol Roth's blog. So I'm looking forward to talking to you, Michelle.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so a bit about me is I'm an academic. That was my training in life. I got my PhD in communication. I was a professor at the University of Hawaii for about 5 years, where I learned that being a professor was nothing like being in graduate school. And I loved graduate school because you got to have these like deep, meaningful conversations, debate ideas, and do research and find answers to questions. And so I ended up leaving. I didn't really like the politics. And at first, I didn't start my business straight away. I went into market research, which, you know, you have a PhD, you're a researcher. And that wasn't the best fit for me. And I ended up being encouraged by a friend to just start a blog. So I started a blog on public speaking, and 6 months later, I wrote a very ranty post, and that led me to my first client. And since then, I've really pivoted my business to focus on helping rebels and change makers who run a business communicate what it is they do in a clear, compelling way that positions them as the only option in their industry. And that's called the 3-word rebellion.
I love that. By the way, you get a gold star for great titles. That's absolutely perfect. I was having a conversation with a client of mine, and I said, what's the worst thing you can be? And his expertise is establishing thought leadership in a lot of video, and he's like, boring. The worst thing you can be is boring and forgettable.
Yeah, and I feel as business owners, we end up learning how to be boring with how we communicate our business. Because the first thing we learn we need is like a unique selling proposition, which usually sounds like, I help X do Y so that they can Z. And that is boring. It makes you sound like everyone else because everyone else is saying the same thing. Like I go on websites and I see business owners who have been in business for a while saying, I help creative entrepreneurs create business models so that they can live a life they love. And it's like, snooze fest. No thanks. You're not different from any other business coach.
Okay. But that is a framework upon which you can hang things. Like it's something someone can follow. What do you recommend that they do instead?
Yeah, it's a framework that is good at the beginning of your business.
Okay.
And as you start to evolve, you have to differentiate yourself in your industry. And so my framework, the 3-word rebellion, is about coming up with those 3, or actually it can be 2 to 5 words, according to the book, those 3 words that make people curious about what it is you do and make them want to act. So imagine if I am at a networking event and somebody comes up to me and says, hey, Michelle, what do you do? And I say, oh, I create 3-word rebellions. They're going to be like, what? Like, what is that? Tell me about that. And I can then ask like, oh, well, tell me, what are you rebelling against? And usually people have a whole laundry list. And I'm like, oh, awesome. That's so cool. Well, what kind of change do you want to create? And they have a whole laundry list of that as well. And then I can say, yeah, I take those 2 questions and I help create a message that positions you as the only person who does what you do.
So is it 3 words strung together as a short sentence, or is it 3 adjectives that define you? Like what What are the 3 words?
So your 3-word rebellion should be a statement. So think about start with why. Because when we string like 3 adjectives together, that has no meaning for the audience, right? It's like we don't know what to do with it.
Possibility, dreaming,
Yeah.
fortune.
Yeah. Like and so like least something generic like live your best life, least that tells us what we're doing, even though it's terrible and nobody knows what their best life actually is. But anyway, but something like start with why. Let's think about that. So he's telling us exactly where we need to start. We need to start with our why. And at the same time, it makes you curious, like, ooh, well, what is my why? What is my why behind my business? And that draws us in. So it has to make sense because the 3-word rebellion is never about you. It's about your audience. It's about creating this space of belonging for them. And when you have like 3 adjectives or 3 nouns strung together that don't make sense, it doesn't mean anything to the person receiving the message.
Right. Just to be clear, start with why is Simon Sinek's primary body of work, for those of you who don't know.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. I thought I said his name, but apparently I didn't.
Well, just in case anybody's interested in that, they might want to check him out. His talks are excellent. He's a very, very excellent speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So when you work with clients, you ask them a series of questions, you pull out what their driver is and what the change they want to make with their clients is?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I do. I take clients through a free writing exercise that, I'm asking them questions like, what are you rebelling against? What ticks you off? What kind of world do you want to live in? And the purpose of those questions is to get to their own beliefs and values, to have them move out of their own way. Because I figure, most of the time we block ourselves from finding our message because we have all of these shoulds in our heads, or we start thinking about the change we want to create and we're like, oh, how am I going to do that? That's too big. And the purpose of free writing is to like move past all of that ego stuff that's telling you like you can't do that, and get to those beliefs, those strong viewpoints, and get them on paper so that then we can analyze that writing and treat it almost, going back to my research days, you treat it almost like data, and you start looking for what are the patterns here? What are the words that I'm using again and again and again? Because one of the core principles of the 3-word rebellion is your 3-word rebellion already exists. It is there. I have seen it again and again with my clients. You just need help like excavating it out and being able to see all of the different thoughts you have and all of the ways you talk about something in order to find it.
Exactly. And I assume that you included a lot of these exercises in your book.
Yes, the book is very interactive. In fact, the introduction of the book is a note from the book and me saying, please use the book, write in it, like take it to the coffee shop, spill wine on it, but use the book, because the only way to get the result is to do the exercises. So there's lots of space to write and lots of different questions to help you prepare yourself for having a message that is this big and for finding that message.
I assume you pulled from your academic days of doing worksheets and having people, do their homework.
Well, and for me, like I wanted to create something that could get you to a result and that you would actually want to write. And so the book is like beautifully designed, but I've had so many books in my life where it's like they give you exercises kind of like at the end of the chapter, and I never do them.
In little font.
Yes, in little font with like a little tiny space. This book has like lots of room to write, and I ask questions throughout. It's not just at the end of the book or at the end of the chapter.
Okay, so what is the benefit to the business owner once they've found their three-word rebellion? How does that have a ripple effect into their business, their marketing, their clients? Like, what's the benefit?
Yes. So your three-word rebellion is the heartbeat of your business. When you get up in the morning and you're wondering, what should I be posting on social media? You're posting about your three-word rebellion. It is really, it powers your entire business. And so this is the message that positions you from all the other brand, business coaches out there as being different. Because you know what? There's a lot of people who do brand messaging. There's only one person who can give you a three-word rebellion, and that's the space you want to occupy. And so it drives your marketing because you always know that this is the message I'm talking about today. And because of the exercises, you have so many different ways to talk about that. So you always know what you're marketing. When people come to work with you, it's not like, oh, I'm just kicking the tires here, getting on a consult call. They want what you're offering. They'll be like, yes, I want this three-word rebellion. Like, that is what I'm here to do. Like, I want this from you. So it makes sales a whole lot easier. And clients know what you're about, because I think sometimes people show up and they want to do all the things, like all the things. And, oh, I do social media and web design and copywriting and people don't know what you're about, and you confuse them. And when you confuse them, you're going to end up losing them.
That's for sure. Paradox of choice is a thing. If you have these couple things to choose from, you'll make a choice. If you have 10, 20 different things to choose from, you're like, I don't know, I'm going to go take a nap. Like,
yeah. Yes. Because like having that one thing that people are pointed towards makes a huge difference. And you know what? You can still offer other things, but your three-word rebellion is that central focus that when people come to you, they're like, I want that. And then as you get into a discovery call with them, let's say you're a service-based business, you realize, oh, but I could also help with this and this and this and this.
Yeah, I find the clearer you are does not take away opportunities. The people who are drawn to your energy, your messaging, or whatever it is about you will say, you know what, I don't really need that, but do you do this? Like, it doesn't take away opportunity. It takes away exhaustion, overwhelm, and frustration from the solo service provider.
Absolutely. Because even when people come to me and they have their three-word rebellion, that they say to me, okay, so I have this three-word rebellion. What do you think? And I'll give them my feedback. And sometimes people will have brilliant ones, but then they get stuck and they're like, oh, but I'm having a hard time like using this consistently. Like, how do I talk about this? How do I use it to actually get people to raise their hand and say yes to what I'm doing in the world? And so it's creating more opportunity for me because I'm so focused. And I know that sounds so counterintuitive, but it's not. Like, don't be afraid to like have a central focus.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. I think you'll agree with this. I wrote a post about cranking up the volume of you and how important that was to not keep your light down and easily, don't be like everybody else. If there's something that's bright and bold and colorful or thoughtful and analytic, not everybody can be, a big loudmouth like me. A lot of people are thoughtful or considered or analytical or, whatever your brand is, it's going to be different for everybody. It just has to be you. But when you crank that up, when you're consistently posting publicly, and when you show up with that embodied, that's when everything seems to drop into place.
Yes. Because I feel like the three-word rebellion helps you double down on who you are and what you believe, instead of thinking you need to be like so-and-so, like your big business idol out there. Like, I have to be like that. And it's like, no, you have to be you and double down on your you-ness.
Thank you. And that seems like a good place for us to wrap. If people want to learn more about you and the 3-Word Rebellion, where should we send them?
Yes, to find out more about me, I'm at drmichellemazur.com, and you can get all the info on the 3-Word Rebellion book at drmichellemazur.com/book.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for talking with me, Michelle. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Catherine. This was awesome.